They took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. Not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started, ever.
That's right. It wouldn't have started if Trump was
And he's
president.
going to
I
take
believe
Ukraine.
that.
And you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until
No, Ukraine's losing.
They're
If we
running out
stop
of people,
sending
they're
them
running
money,
out of
they're
soldiers,
going
they've
to
lost
lose.
so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked.
It's true.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else
That's
was
true.
ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level, because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you
Because
continue
they're
to
full of
promote
liberal judges.
this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There's no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll
The
accept
FBI worked to cover it up.
the idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Well, now those of you that are not watching the mainstream media, you've seen what's come out about tens of thousands, some states hundreds of thousands of ballots that were not legitimate ballots. The mail-in ballots created lots of fraud, and anybody that knows anything about elections, if you look into it, people that run elections will say there's always a certain percentage of fraud. That level of fraud was expanded tremendously in the 2020 election. There was a lot of misinformation, and there was a lot of people that were stirring the pot that really didn't have good information. Arizona, for instance, a judge said that they must look at the servers, and the county said, no, we're not going to turn over the servers because they're mixed with the police servers, and we can't do that. So they never got to look at the servers because they wouldn't give them the servers to show them the fraud. So there's countless things that if you look into them, you'll find that there's potential for fraud. And when there's potential for fraud, there will be fraud. You have to have paper ballots, you have to have same-day voting, and you have to have voter ID. If you don't have those things, there's going to be fraud. And the computers, Brinks had a ballot system. It was bought by the European company now, and that's the system that a lot of states used. And that system was hacked by average hackers to show that it was no good. So Brinks sold it to another company to change the name. It's the same system. So they have backdoors. The county election commissioners don't have the passwords. They wouldn't give the passwords up so they could look at the data. There's so much fraud in the 2020 election. And if you've been watching the mainstream media news, you wouldn't know about any of it. But if you go to look into it, there's a lot of information out there on the internet. Google is a hard place to find it because they shadow ban everything. YouTube shadow bans everything. If I search YouTube for President Trump, everything that comes up about him is bad and negative. I have to go to other places to find what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for, but YouTube doesn't show it. There's so much bias in the social media companies, and it's really hard to find the truth. But if you persist, you can find it. Let's see where we are in the commercials here. Let me know, give me a thumbs up or a heart if you can see the video in this. The video cut out, so I had to start the stream over again. I hope you guys can see the video and you don't just have to listen to the commentary. All these commercials. They can't even do a hard-hitting story, Fox or CNN, because they have so many commercials for drug companies, mask companies. The commercials, without the commercials, these companies would go bankrupt. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, and so they won't do any hard-hitting pieces against pharmaceutical companies. Let's see if the stream is still active. Yeah, it looks like it. Well, give me a thumbs up if you can see it, or a heart, or say something in the comments. I'd be grateful. See if we can fast forward through this. It's actually a pretty good debate, better than I thought it would be. And PGA, oh, golf. I think Robert will like golf. Okay, we're back.
Deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden.
Closing statements. Come on, Joe.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said
Trump simplified the tax system and helped the middle
a
class.
single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example,
Joe kept the
wants to
tariffs, by the way.
get rid of the ability of Medicare to, for the ability
Come on, Joe.
for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess
Trump
what?
already took care of that.
We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior.
Government
no
control
matter
and
what
regulations.
How much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, or is happening
Why
now.
don't you cut the sugar
and everybody
subsidies?
in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the
Child care is
credit
another
people have for
government
child care.
handout to the
We're going to make sure
corporations.
we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the
We
country.
haven't had lead
We're going
pipes
to
in
continue to
forever.
fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror. No money
Biden gave them a
whatsoever.
whole bunch of money.
Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs
to
is
finish
because
the
I cut
job.
the regulations that gave jobs. But he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done.
Get rid of the
nobody's ever seen.
EPA, get
You've
rid of
never
the
seen
Department of
anything like it.
Education,
Even from
get
the
rid of
medical
the
standpoint,
Department
right
of
to try. Well, we
Transportation.
should try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document.
Called
They've
the
been
right
trying
to
to
try.
get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible choice for our soldiers. Where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and
Trump
readied
did
up
that.
and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we
Thanks
have
for watching.
full
Appreciate the
analysis of this
subscribes,
debate.
shares, and
David
thumbs up.
Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.